We have this peculiar idea that friendship is supposed to feel easy all the time. But I don't mean easy as in comfortable or familiar. I mean when you really begin to notice that something feels off, even though everything looks fine on the surface. And here's what nobody tells you. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones quietly draining your life. Have you ever felt tired after spending time with someone you're supposed to love? Nobody tells you this, but one of the most confusing experiences in life is realizing that kindness can coexist with harm. That someone can smile at you, laugh with you, share memories with you, and still, slowly, diminish you. You've probably felt it, that subtle tightening in your chest before replying to their message, the way your energy drops after a conversation you can't quite explain, the strange guilt you feel for even questioning the relationship. Do you ever feel like you're always the one listening, always the one adjusting, always the one understanding? Do you ever walk away thinking, why do I feel smaller than I did before? Do you ever wonder if you're just being too sensitive? Here's the paradox. What if the very traits that make you a good friend, your empathy, your patience, your depth, are the same traits that keep you entangled in toxic relationships? This is where it gets interesting, because toxicity doesn't usually announce itself with cruelty. It often arrives dressed as familiarity, as loyalty, as history. And here's where the danger begins. When you confuse endurance with love. When you believe that discomfort is the price of connection. So let me share something with you. Not rules, not labels, but signs. Quiet, philosophical signals that help you recognize toxic friends without turning you bitter, hard, or closed. And I want you to remember this as we go. If this resonates, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're waking up. Let me share 5 things you must understand if you want to recognize toxic friends without losing your humanity in the process. 1. The first thing you must understand is this. Toxicity is about how you feel after, not what happens during. At first glance, everything might seem fine. You laugh, you talk, you share stories. But afterwards, something lingers. You feel oddly tired, or irritated, or quietly ashamed even though nothing obvious went wrong. Think of it like pouring the ocean into a teacup. Your system, your nervous system, your emotional body simply can't hold what's being poured into it, so it spills out as fatigue, confusion, or self-doubt. I once knew someone who was endlessly honest. Every conversation included a subtle critique disguised as concern. Nothing overtly cruel, nothing you could point to. Yet, after every meeting, I felt diminished. Here's the profound part. Your body often recognizes toxicity long before your mind does. The mind argues. The body knows. This is why you must trust the aftertaste of a relationship. Energy doesn't lie. The second, even more important thing is this. Toxic friends require you to abandon yourself to stay connected. Notice how subtle this is. You don't suddenly become someone else. You just edit yourself. You speak a little less honestly. You laugh at things that don't feel funny. You hide parts of your truth to avoid tension. It's like a stage play where everyone has agreed on the script, and the moment you improvise, really improvise, the atmosphere shifts. Consider this. Healthy friendships allow expansion. Toxic ones require contraction. Watch what happens in nature. A plant doesn't thrive by bending toward poison. It withers. Here's the dangerous illusion. You tell yourself you're being mature, patient, understanding, but slowly, invisibly, you disappear. And this is why it hurts so much, because the cost of the friendship is you. The third thing, which is perhaps the most insidious, is this. Toxic friends make you doubt your own perception. They don't say, "You're wrong." They say, "You're overthinking." They say, "You're too sensitive." They say, "That's not what I meant." And maybe, sometimes, they truly don't mean harm. But here's the key insight. Impact matters more than intention. Think of muddy water. When it's constantly stirred, clarity is impossible. But when you let it settle, the truth becomes obvious. If every serious conversation leaves you confused instead of clearer, something is wrong. Real understanding brings relief, not fog. And here's what nobody tells you. You don't need permission to trust your experience. You're allowed to say, "This doesn't feel right," even if you can't explain why. This is not weakness. This is wisdom emerging. And the fourth, the most critical of all, is this. Toxic friends resist your growth, even when they claim to support it. They cheer for you until you change, until you set boundaries, until you become less available. Then the jokes begin, the guilt, the subtle pullback into your old role. It's like reading about swimming instead of getting in the water. They like the idea of your growth, not the reality of it. Remember this. Not everyone who benefits from your old self will celebrate your new one. Even Jesus walked away from crowds that didn't understand him, not out of arrogance, out of clarity. Growth disrupts systems, and toxic friends prefer the system that kept them comfortable. This is where courage appears, not in confrontation, but in quiet withdrawal. And that's the secret. You don't have to fight. You just have to stop shrinking. And finally, the fifth thing, gentle but decisive, is this. Distance is sometimes the most compassionate response. We think compassion means staying, enduring, explaining endlessly. But consider a garden. Without weeding, even the most beautiful plants suffocate. Distance isn't punishment, it's discernment. You can love someone and still choose not to sit at their table. You can appreciate shared history without living in it. Here's the paradox. The more you honor yourself, the more peaceful your relationships become, even the ones that end. And this is where it all turns. Because the goal was never to identify bad people. The goal was to recognize what costs you your aliveness. That's the line. Always has been. So here we are, back to where we started. That quiet feeling, that inner knowing. All of these connect because toxic friendships aren't about cruelty. They're about misalignment. The beautiful secret is this. When you stop forcing connection, you discover resonance. You are not broken. You are not failing at friendship. You are simply outgrowing certain dynamics. What they call antisocial is often deep discernment. What they call too sensitive is refined perception. Think about it this way. You're not meant to be understood by everyone. You're meant to be at home with yourself. And when that happens, something miraculous occurs. The right people don't drain you. They restore you. That's the shift. From survival to harmony. From endurance to ease. So the next time you feel that subtle exhaustion after a conversation, pause, listen, remember what we've explored today. You're allowed to choose peace. You're allowed to step back without explanation. You're allowed to trust your inner compass. Because in the end, you are not here to manage everyone else's comfort. You are the universe experiencing itself. Through clarity, through boundaries, through truth. And so the journey continues. Not louder, but truer.